OnSpot chain systems can be adapted to several different suspension systems, each one requiring a specific set of measurements. So, OnSpot has developed several different vehicle suspension information forms. All the VSI forms can be found on the OnSpot website and the OnSpot CD entitled The Works. In this video, we will measure the most common application, a truck that has air brakes and spring suspension. The measurement you will take for this application will be recorded on the Vehicle Suspension Information Form number 31300009, which, by the way, is the most common form we use. Simply stated, this form asks you to measure the relative distance from the U-bolt to the tire sidewall, the height from the ground to the U-bolt saddle plate, and the bolt pattern of the U-bolts. These measurements will vary based on the size of the vehicle and its rear-end configuration. Accurate measuring is important. The OnSpot factory uses your measurements to determine which model OnSpot chain system and what mounting bracket kit will fit your particular vehicle. To measure your truck, you're going to need a tape measure, a plumb bob, the correct Vehicle Suspension Information Form, or VSI, and about 10 minutes of time. If you have a set of calipers, they might come in handy too. The front page of the VSI asks basic information about your truck, its make, model, year, and application. The bottom section of the front page asks for specific information about the rear suspension, axle make, capacity, single or tandem axle, axle speed, and tire size. The form also asks for information about air brake chamber and shock absorber placement, if applicable. The form leaves space to write in any obstructions that may be within 36 inches in front of or behind the rear axle that may prevent the OnSpot system from being installed. Obstructions can include fuel tanks, air tanks, exhaust pipes, and driveline retarders. Record the distance from the rear axle to the obstruction on the VSI form. You will record rear suspension measurements on the back of the VSI. Again, it's important that the measurements be precise, within 1/8 of an inch. The A dimension asks if the vehicle has a depth of round. Many trucks have a flat saddle plate. If so, the A dimension is 0. Our truck has a 0A dimension. Some vehicles may have a rounded saddle plate or ribs between the U-bolts. On rounded saddle plates, the A dimension is the difference between the bottom of the saddle plate and the U-bolt nut seat. BF is measured from the ground to the bottom of the saddle plate in front of the rear axle. BB is measured from the ground to the bottom of the saddle plate behind the rear axle. Next, the form asks for the C dimension, or sidewall distance, the relative distance from the U-bolt center line to the tire sidewall at the tire bulge. Hang the plumb bob from the center line of the U-bolt closest to the tire and measure from the tire bulge to the plumb bob. The D dimension is the remaining thread below the U-bolt nuts in inches. Look at all the U-bolts and measure the one with the least amount of threads exposed. Keep in mind that the U-bolts may need to be replaced if the vehicle has underslung air suspension. This dimension will determine if the U-bolt nuts can be left in place or if they will be replaced by the bracket kit adapter nuts. The E dimension indicates the U-bolt nut height thickness, including the washer, if there is one. The U-bolt diameter, the X dimension, can be measured with a tape measure or caliper. Actually, I've got a better and easier way of doing this. I have the most common U-bolt nuts: 3/4 inch fine, 7/8 inch fine, and 1 inch fine. I just see which one threads on. And be careful. Some trucks have metric U-bolts. The front to rear measurement Y is measured from the center line of the front U-bolt to the center line of the rear U-bolt. The side-to-side measurement, Z, is measured from the center line of the U-bolt closest to the tire to the center line of the U-bolt closest to the differential. Next, the form asks for the air brake chamber information if the vehicle has air brakes. Ours does. Measure the distance from the ground to the lowest point of the air brake chamber. And keep in mind the lowest point may be the air brake chamber bracket or clamp. This is the GB distance. Measure the distance from the tire sidewall to the center of the air brake chamber. This is the SB dimension. Then, measure the distance from the front U-bolt to the air brake chamber. This is the UB dimension. Even though the form is now complete, I always measure both sides of the vehicle, and you should too, to double-check that the first measurements are accurate and to make sure that there is nothing unusual about the vehicle. Your measurements are sent to OnSpot and entered into the mounting bracket computer program. The program identifies the mounting bracket part number that will fit your vehicle, as well as the chain system model number. The program also identifies all the mounting hardware required and prints specific instructions on how to install your mounting bracket kit. Once identified, the mounting brackets are cut of high-tensile steel on our plasma cutter. After the bracket shape is cut, mounting holes are punched and the bracket is bent to achieve the correct mounting angle. Before shipping, bracket mounting hardware is gathered. Adapter nuts to fit your U-bolts, distance spacers, and certified grade 8 cap screws. Lastly, your OnSpot chain set is married to your bracket kit to complete the OnSpot system designed to fit your vehicle. Again, I want to say this one more time before we close. If your vehicle is equipped with air suspension, a suspension without U-bolts, or a suspension having inverted U-bolts, you should contact OnSpot for specific directions on how to take the measurements on these types of suspensions. If you have any questions, there are 3 ways to contact OnSpot. Visit our website at www.onspot.com. Check out the Works OnSpot CD, or call us at 1-800-224-2467 or 1-800-766-7768.